Hey everyone, it's Dr. DeCubellis here from Main Street Chiropractic, and today I am at Headspace Barber with the owner, Taylor. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Now, she is actually located right next to me in downtown Downers Grove. Very convenient location, very convenient parking. But I want to talk to her today because we got a little bit of an interesting story. So tell us about, you opened up a couple months ago, correct?
Yep, I opened up October 20th of 2020, so kind of in the middle of everything.
So that had to not be the easiest plan, correct?
Yeah, it was pretty difficult, especially getting a hold of people.
Oh, right,
with permits and stuff. It was like I was having to call people on their home phones because they just like weren't in the office.
That's so true, because it makes it so difficult. People aren't checking their work emails or things, and that's crazy. Did you end up getting delayed a lot at all, or were you pretty close to on track?
I mean, this is my first business, so I don't really have anything to compare it to, but yeah, I definitely think it took a little bit longer.
Right, okay. Well,
it took like 6 weeks just to get a permit.
That's crazy. And this space, I mean, you built it out really, really well, and people, you definitely should stop by to see what it looks like in here. It really looks amazing. That, even just doing that type of stuff probably wasn't the easiest, because again, you had to get in touch with people, permits, and I couldn't even imagine. So, I mean, definitely kudos to you for taking that on during all this.
Thank you. Yeah, it just felt right. So I just went for it.
So with that in mind, so why did you choose Downers Grove? Why this location?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Downers Grove, and I've built a pretty solid network here in my community. So I just kind of wanted to plant my roots and kind of like, yeah, bring the community together.
Okay. Now, did you know you wanted to be in downtown Downers?
I don't think I knew until I saw the spot, and I was like, this is perfect. Like, we all grew up going to another round. You know, this is just like where most of the memories in my life have been. So I just thought it'd be so cool to open a spot where, you know, I'd be able to reconnect with a bunch of people, and I just felt like the community could use it too, like a trendy shop. So
yeah, definitely. So speaking of that, though, what made you even decide you wanted to do something like this, wanted to be a barber?
Be a barber in general?
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I always wanted to do hair, so I actually went to beauty school while I was in high school to TCD. So that was kind of like a trade school program that you could go to your junior and senior year and get like high school credit for it.
Okay.
So I did that. I worked at a salon for a bit, and I just like hated it. I just felt like there was like a lot of drama, and people were more like to themselves. Like, people didn't really connect with each other. It was more just like business, like, I'll do your hair and then I'll go home. And I ended up getting asked to work at a barber shop, and I just never like considered that an option, because no one in my family ever went to barbers. They all had long hair. Right. Like, my dad was a drummer in a rock band. So, like, he had never been to a barber. He had hair, like, down to his butt. Right. So I just didn't really know anything about the culture. And I started working at this barber shop, and I fell in love with it, because it was just, like, everyone came there to just connect and, like, reflect on their day and just kind of like joke around, and I loved that. And I loved that it was more than a haircut, you know. Mm-hmm. They went there for the culture, and just, it was a place for them to unwind.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I've been in a few of those salons, so I kind of know what you're talking about. It's a very different feel with more of an intimate kind of like barbershop like this. So let me ask you this, because this is always kind of my first question, and I get asked this a lot just in my profession too. The first person you ever had to work on, were you nervous? Ever in your career? Like in school or anything, like the first person, do you get nervous, or did you like, hey, I know what I'm doing and this will be good?
I got super nervous in barber school, yeah. I had a bunch of anxiety. There were a few times my teacher would have to like finish the haircut for me.
Really?
So yeah, it was nerve-wracking for sure.
And then it's one of those things, you get the first one out, and then you start kind of, I assume it's kind of like to where, you know, in school they teach you some different things to do, and then you kind of evolve yourself, right? Like you kind of create your own style and see how you want to do things, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so where do you think, like, was it when you were at that barber, was it the first like day you were there, or was it after a while? I mean, when do you think like you were like, you know, this is what I want to really do, not that spa stuff anymore?
I think I just felt comfortable being there because like everyone just kind of joked around and made fun of each other. It was
Okay.
actually like an old school Italian shop. And like I said, like I was not a barber. I went to beauty school. So I didn't really like know what I was doing, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And he would just kind of like force me to do stuff. Like a client would walk in and they'd be like, "Oh, like can I have a straight razor shave?" And he would just look at me and be like, "Yeah, Taylor will do that for you." And I was just like, "Are you kidding me? Like, I've never done this before." But he just threw me into it, and I ended up being half decent. So I was like, maybe I should do this.
That works. That works.
But I guess I just felt home in the sense where it was just like a tough love. You know what I mean? It wasn't like fake. It was like, I love you, but no, like I'm gonna joke around with you out of love. You know?
Right. All right, now let me ask you this, because with all that in mind, you kind of got another loop thrown at you when, with COVID going on, you have to kind of alter the way. How do you do a haircut around a mask? Can you explain how that works?
It just sucks, honestly.
Right.
Like, I don't think I'll ever get used to it. I've cut off a bunch of masks. So if someone comes in with like a trendy mask, I'm like, no, I'm gonna need you to take that off. I'll get you one of my disposable ones because I just don't trust myself. It's really hard.
Well, yeah, I mean, half of you're covering up what you need to see, and I would assume that seeing everything is how you can get your vision of what you need to do, what you want to do, and what the end product is going to be. So if you start covering part of that up, it makes it a little bit difficult, you know?
Well, that's another thing is I like to kind of tailor all of the haircuts to the person's style, face shape, you know, and I can't do that with the masks on, so that kind of stinks. But yeah, got to do what you got to do.
Right. And now with that too, where there's some kind of regulations on like doing anything with beards or mustaches, or how did that work?
Yeah, so we just couldn't do beards for a long time. And that was hard because it's such a big part of what we do, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, but we just started doing beards again. We try to do kind of like a quick service as far as the beard grooming goes, but we just had to do it to survive.
Right.
It's such a big part of it, you know?
Now, the other thing, when people think of a barber, I think the barber that they think of, you know, maybe back in like the 1950s to where the barbers today is 100% different. And I think we see a lot of that with like celebrities and, you know, people in magazines. It's a much different kind of not only style, but dealing with products and other things like that. So how do you even stay up on like, let's start with products. How do you even stay up on like new products and what's good and what's bad, and how do you even begin with something like that?
I think that's a big reason why I wanted to open this shop, is because I think a lot of places don't keep up with the modernization of barbering as a whole, or like trends as a whole. So that's kind of why I wanted to open a shop, because barbering is changing in a significant way, because now women are cutting their hair short. And a lot of women don't feel comfortable going in a barber shop. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's something that I wanted to emphasize, that we're constantly keeping up with, not just trends, but like the culture and just everything going on in the world, and making sure that we're respecting that, you know? So we do continued education. We're all just really passionate about it, so it's not something that we really have to like consider work.
Right.
It's just our lives, so naturally it's all that we do.
Yeah. Well, that's the best. I mean, because then, you know, it's not even work anymore if it's something you enjoy. So that's awesome. All right, so let me ask you this. Have you ever had someone come in and say, I want you to do this or this specific style, and you knew it was going to be the worst style for them? What do you do? Do you try to talk them out of it, or do you just do it because that's what they want? Like, what do you do in that situation?
I think every barber's a little different, but I'm personally super blunt with them.
Okay.
I'm like, no, that is not gonna work. You're gonna hate it. You're not gonna wanna style it like that every day. Like, I'm honest with them because like I would want them to be honest with me.
Right.
You know, so I just tell them straight up what's gonna work with their hair, different options that they would have that could be like a similar look, but maybe better with their hair type and whatnot. But I feel like my clients appreciate that, you know.
Definitely. Oh, well, and I mean, that's the one thing that never made sense to me is if you go into a barber and you want them to do your hair, but you don't take into consideration how you're going to be able to duplicate that at home because they're the professional. I mean, you can do a lot of things I can't do. So if you were to tell me, hey, you know what, you're not going to be able to do this at home, so why don't we pick something a little bit different? I would 100% appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to be able to look as good as I look when I left your place. So I think that's really good, and a lot of people wouldn't do that, which is doing their clients a disservice.
Right.
You know what I mean? Really. All right, let me ask you this too. When it comes, do you have like a go-to like styling product that you like, or one that you just 100% hate, or does it really just depend on the person?
I would say my go-to product right now is texture spray because it kind of allows the hair to look lived in, which I really like.
Yeah.
But it still gives it a hold.
Okay.
So I feel like that's how a lot of us are kind of leaning towards with our style. Like, we don't really want to look like perfectly groomed, but we don't want to look like we just rolled out of bed.
Right.
So that's my go-to product right
So
now.
that like kind of in between.
Yeah.
Now, you know, you think like back in the day, the big thing with people would get magazines and stuff, and they always come in and they say, I want to look like this celebrity, or I want to look like this. Does that still happen a lot, or is it now people want to be more individualized, or what are you noticing with clients?
I would say like 95% of my clients will show me a picture of like what they want, which I love because I think it's really hard to put into words a vision sometimes, you know? And obviously I wouldn't expect clients to know the terminology for hair.
Right.
So I actually love when they bring a picture, but I definitely take the time to explain, you know, if their hair is going to be able to look that way and why or why not.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Now, I think we talked about a lot of the stuff that's going on here. Is there anything we didn't touch on that you'd like to add? Anything you think that like people people don't know about barbershops, or especially your barbershop, or something that maybe is a misnomer that is out there?
I think a lot of times people will come in and ask if we do women's hair, and something that I really wanted to encourage in the building of this shop is to separate the ideas that a salon is for women and that a barbershop is for men, and more along the idea that barbering is just for shorter hair, because I don't think short haircuts have a gender. I think that they belong to everyone. I think a lot of men are starting to wear their hair longer. So I think we need to kind of separate that idea of, you know, women go here, men go there. And like anyone can come here, no matter who you are, no matter what your style is. And yeah, I just wanted to create a place that like anyone can feel at home.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's a great idea too.
Yeah.
So I want to thank Taylor for having me. We're at Headspace right here in downtown Downers Grove, and they're right next to my office. So if you know where I am, you know where she is. And stop by and see us both. But our contact information is there. Definitely get in touch with her. She gets booked out quickly. So make sure if you want to make an appointment, you make an appointment ahead of time. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me. I hope you guys come check out the shop and all of the amazing barbers that work here too.